groups of women that are meeting in other states. So for those of you who are in Atlanta, New Jersey, New York, Pittsburgh, Tampa, Idaho, and ULI Northwest, welcome. We are so thrilled to have you here, and I am just so excited to share this little piece of magic that we have been kind of sitting on and enjoying for these last 5 years. So welcome, engage. I hope that this becomes as meaningful for all of you as it has for us, and I hope that you enjoy yourselves. Here with me today to discuss sort of the art of negotiation are two of our all-star women in the ULI Michigan District Council. We have Liz Rogers with us today, who is a partner at Taft Law in the real estate section. She has been practicing real estate law for more than 24 years and is going to be sharing her thoughts on the negotiation skills, tactics, and everything that goes in to real estate law.
Good morning. So happy you all are here this morning, and I'm excited to hear more feedback about what happens in your individual rooms. And a very special shout out to our out-of-state guests. Good to see you virtually.
And also with us today is Nicole Carter, who is a commercial and residential real estate broker. She is the principal at Carter Group Realty Worldwide, a member of Delta Sigma Theta sorority, and a member of the Global Real Estate Initiative for GMAR, as well as serving on the Commission for the Detroit Wayne Joint Building Authority. Welcome, Nicole.
Yeah, welcome. Thank you. Welcome, everyone. I'm looking forward to our discussions today. And let's do this. This is a fabulous space.
Awesome.
Good morning.
I'm going to scoot back just a little bit because I feel like I'm doing this a lot.
Yeah.
Okay, so to give you a little bit of an overview how we're going to spend our time today, we're going to spend the next probably 15 or 20 minutes going over and discussing just some different negotiation techniques and things like that that come up in sort of real estate, and also just for professional women in general. And then we're going to spend 40 minutes or so talking about some real life scenarios. So for all of you that are joining us remotely, please, in your groups, I hope that you were discussing this for the first sort of half hour as your icebreaker. But please start typing in different scenarios into the chat so that when we get to that portion, we're hoping it'll be highly engaging and interactive. What we would like to do is take you through some real life scenarios, get these women's take on how they would handle them, and then kind of throw it back to the rooms and have all of you weigh in on some different ways that you might approach those scenarios as well. So super excited. Let's dig in. And I'm going to sort of get us kicked off with maybe some communication techniques. So let's talk about the role of clear and assertive communication in successful negotiations. How do you articulate those? How do you prepare? What are your sort of initial thoughts on preparing to clearly communicate when entering into a negotiation?
Nice. Well, when I was thinking about this presentation, I was thinking about what I think would be an ideal framework. And the question that I started with is, what do you know? One point is to know your deal. And in this scenario, deal is an umbrella term for whatever the subject matter is over which you're negotiating. So know your deal. Know as much as you can about the situation that you're going into. Know the terms, know what the industry standards are. The second thing is know the people. Who are the people at the table with whom you're negotiating? What are their strengths? What are their weaknesses? What are their backgrounds? And think about the areas in which you can connect with that person and the areas in which they may be willing to give you a little bit of leverage or to give you a little bit of sort of negotiation where they will give something to you. They're willing to not maybe hold a line on a certain issue. And the third point is know what your desired outcome is. Don't wing it when you go into a room. Know where you're going so that you can determine when you have arrived. So when you're thinking about clear communication, if you know what your goal is, you can back into it. And then you'll know when you've hit the mark. You know what points you want to make, and there cannot be too much rehearsal of that. You would be surprised at how your confidence level goes through the roof when you walk into a room and you're prepared and you're not winging it. So make sure that you're doing the pre-work before you walk into the door so that you know exactly where you're going, you know exactly what your outcomes are going to be, and you know who's at the table with you.
Thanks, Liz.
Yeah, 100%. Those are all the points that I would hit. I would also say, just to add to that, when you are negotiating, it is important to have your vision, how you would like this thing to end. That is so important. Understanding who you are, what you are willing to concede is also very important in these spaces. So you have to know that the bottom line of who you're negotiating for, the bottom line of what it is they are willing to give up if they have to, not that we're leading with that, okay? We're holding things close to the vest. But in your mind, you need to understand what that is. And we're not giving that up, but if it comes up, then we know, and we're still gonna hold it, be patient, right? That's a thing in this space, patience. So if someone comes to you and they say, we want this, you know that you can give that, but maybe we're not answering right away. Let me get back to you on that. And then they're thinking, oh God, maybe that was too much. And then you go back and you say, what was that you again? And then you know your bottom line. So yeah, absolutely. Know your vision, be patient, and know what you are willing to concede. Even though we're asking for something, they're going to come back with something. Every time someone is hitting you with something, we're going to hit back with something else on the other side. So yeah, being clear about that is the way to go.
What about objections? Tell me how you're
Mhm.
handling objections in these scenarios.
Well, for the framework that I'm thinking about with know the people who are in the room, part of knowing that means knowing their tendencies and what their weaknesses are. And so you can anticipate the direction that they're going to want to take you, and you can set the pace and you can make a decision about whether and how you're willing to get there. So if you know what the tendencies are of the folks who are at the table, then you can kind of anticipate where they're going to go, and you already have prepared yourself for it because you are armed with the knowledge that includes what the industry standards are, because you've done your research. In my case, we know what the cases are, we know what standard negotiation language is, we've had enough deal experience where we understand what a reasonable compromise would be. And when you feel like you may be embarking on something that is a little bit outside of your depth, don't be hesitant about going to someone who has more experience, whom you trust, who is also interested and invested in your success, just to get some pointers on a deal. Don't
right.
feel like you have to go it alone or that you should know just because you woke up. You don't know unless you've encountered a scenario. So
That's right.
definitely go for some backup and don't apologize for doing that.
I agree. As women, this is mainly a female audience. As women, you know, we have to be so strong in the day to day, but also we need to be strong in the fact that we deserve support. So using our resources is a superpower, and a sisterhood or a partnership, whomever it is, male, female, in our organizations, use that support, because who said we need to do all the heavy lifting? A lot of times we think we need to. So that is definitely something. And handling objections, I would say understanding their objection, but to your point, Liz, understanding who we're negotiating with and why they may be coming at us with those objections. I would say that will also lead me to ask a lot of questions about the objection. So that kind of throws people off. they think, oh, okay, they're just going to come back with an answer. No, I ask a lot of ancillary questions about the objection, and then maybe you find a point that will give you some teeth in that, and then you can come back and hit them with something out of the box that they weren't even thinking you were going to come up with. So, yeah.
You both touched on this a little bit, and so I want to, let's talk about what differentiates how you approach these things when you're working in a male-dominated industry. Are there differences? And then also we were talking a little bit about establishing and building that credibility and building that confidence. And so how are you going about, or what are some tips or advice that you would give about building credibility in a male-dominated industry, building the confidence to go into these scenarios and knowing that this is not necessarily going to be the same type of room that women get to walk into in different business environments?
Well, in my work, I am usually in the minority in terms of the number of women in the room and the number of Black folks in the room. So part of the way that I have prepared for that over my career is to make sure that I do my work outside of that room. So when I encourage you all to do your research and to understand the industry standard, review your documents, like do the research to get as much information as you possibly can have. Men, and I know this is a stereotype, but men generally tend to be more persuaded by reason than women are. What some of the best advice that I got as a law student was our professor encouraged us to take a step back from the situation emotionally so that we could examine it reasonably. And he said that to the entire class. He didn't just say it to the women. So if you take a step back from a situation emotionally and think about the reasonableness of your request, then you can make an appeal that will be persuasive intellectually, reasonably, and somewhat devoid of emotion. We are in a business, and businesses run based on the bottom line. Businesses run based on what makes sense to certain people. So if you're making an argument that's based on reason, that's based on fact, that's based on industry standard, then it doesn't matter whether someone likes you personally. It doesn't matter whether you feel comfortable. What matters is that you're putting forth a case that is well researched, well reasoned, and a reasonable person is going to want to appear reasonable, so will be persuaded by the information that you're giving them. You're not saying, give me a raise because I deserve it. You're showing some real items that you can point to say, I've increased the bottom line by this. I've given us more reach in these areas. I've done these things. We articulated goals at the beginning of the year. This is how I've met those goals. So the evidence that you're presenting is based on reason and is based on hard evidence that cannot be refuted.
Great.
100%. So being prepared is number one. We're all in the spaces that we're in, everyone, because we are scholars, because we show up, because we do what our job is. We take care of our clients, correct? So that in and of itself gives so much confidence in any space at all. We understand that. But before, first things first is we are human. I go into the room as a human, not as, I'll address these 2 points later, not as a Black person, not as a female, as a human being. And so from that stems, we have intelligence, we have ability to understand other humans and basic needs. And everybody wants to, at the end of the day, close a deal, right? So using that as the baseline for me. But then of note is the fact that we have a special power as women, intuitiveness, right? And that is, we feel energy. So feeling, I say, don't put away our superpowers as women. Use them in negotiation. You can feel and read people's energy if you sit with yourself, right? We are nurturers and we understand, oh, you want that, let mama get you closer to what you want. But it's It's how we use that superpower to get what we want. And we do line it up with reason, like Liz said. So I think using those things analogously can bring us to our desired end result almost every single time. Being a female in a male-dominated industry or space can totally be our superpower. We just need to stand firm in that and understand who we are, what they want from us, and give it to them, but pull back and get what we want at the same time by using our intuitiveness and the fact that we are all human and have basic needs that need to be met.
Excellent. I love that. Yeah, I love that. So, when we're talking specifically about commercial real estate, this is maybe a little bit less on the negotiation side, but talk to me a little bit about how you're preparing, to leverage the market dynamics, to understand, everything that's sort of going into the conversation. Like we're talking about being over prepared. We're talking about, going in there and having all of the information at your fingertips. What do you guys do for that? I mean, what are the ways that you prepare? Where are you getting your information? How are you sort of using that?
Well, for me, the information, because I'm a lawyer, there's the legal research part of it. When thinking about the industry itself, I look at trade journals. ULI is a wonderful resource. And because the reach
I
is
didn't mean to do
so
that.
broad, but it really is, the reach is so broad, you should feel comfortable and work on getting yourself to the point where you feel comfortable with reaching out to other women and other people generally who are members of ULI because it opens up the door. And I think it's important that we think about how to leverage all of the connections that we have. For example, in March, I took a trip to Australia and New Zealand. And while I was in Sydney, I had the opportunity to attend a 1 day ULI event. They were talking about globalization, decarbonization, public-private partnerships, and affordable housing. The same issues that we address in the states, in Michigan, in your respective states, they were talking about it globally. And so now that has opened up an opportunity for me to have reach to Sydney, for me to have reach in New Zealand, and for me to call on some of the women that I met while I was there who are doing these incredible things. We connected on LinkedIn, and I was just texting or going back and forth, emailing a woman that I met who's a lawyer. So don't be afraid or shy about reaching out to your industry contacts as well. What are the trade journals that are the most respected? Look at LinkedIn. I'm a big fan of reaching out to someone whose background create some synergy. People generally will reach back. And I met some amazing women and men that way. People are interested in your success. And when you do the research on them and they can tell that you've read an article that they've written that's particularly helpful, particularly insightful, particularly relevant to whatever the issue is for which you're trying to solve, and then you have a meaningful conversation with them about it, you're making a mark. They don't forget that you've done that. So I would say reach out to the folks who are most well respected in your industry. Look at the trade journals, LinkedIn, Google anything that you can find, and just kind of sometimes research is almost like a rabbit trail. Follow the trail, let it lead you wherever it will take you, and find out as much as you can. And then you'll find yourself reaching out to some of those folks and meeting some incredible people. That's the serendipitous part of it. So you'll meet incredible people along the way as well.
I agree. I love meeting people. I'm a people person, if you can't tell. Love people. Yeah, I would agree. And to your point, the way that I am able, I have children. I'm sure our lives are very, very full. We are caring for elders and all the things that we do in our nurture space as women. I have to, for the most part, get my trade journal, my associations that I belong to, all of the organizations. I try as much as possible to have that on some sort of audio so that as I'm moving, because we're always moving, you're working out, you're whatever, yoga, whatever, cooking, all these things, you need your hands. So let's, find it on a YouTube or on a podcast or however I download the information for the day. Real estate is a highly regulated field, and so things change quickly and often. And so you must be abreast of these things as you go into negotiations. So I would say every morning, if you can take 15 minutes to catch up, and there's little snippet opportunities like, a 30-second, a 1 minute, and you just listen to a few because I know we have so much coming at us all day. But it is very imperative to stay on top of these things. And if you can't do it every single morning, at least do it like 2, 3 times a week so that you're fresh on what is going on. And to your point, LinkedIn and all of those, Google, you can do alerts so that if anything comes up, Detroit commercial real estate, global real estate, Michigan real estate, you're getting those little taglines. So even if you have a broad view of what's current, it is very important to be able to speak to those things when you're addressing partnerships or those people who we will negotiate with or meet out in the street. Mhm.
Can we expand a little bit more on building those strategic relationships? You both kind of touched on it, but how do you go about making sure that yes, we all sort of know that there's like a little bit of lobbying that can kind of happen pre-negotiation when you're walking into sort of anything. But how are you going about building strategic relationships a little bit more holistically or globally so that, this isn't just a one-off. These are things that are going to sort of help you when you walk into any room.
What do you think?
Yeah, so again, I am so a people person. I know this is not everybody's thing, but I am thinking if it's pertaining to a particular deal, one thing about myself and my brand with real estate, I am a concierge type of person. I know someone who does a little bit of everything for a client. I want my client to always come to me first as that point of contact for whatever it is. So I could be from my mornings in the coffee shop or walking down the street. This sounds really bad, but it is so true. I hear people. So I'm sitting in a coffee shop. I am minding my own business. I just want to be clear. I am minding my own business, getting deals done, contracts done. But I hear people. I'm attuned to people. And so I hear someone, this was just yesterday. I was very not nosy, but nosy. He was talking and he says real estate, real estate. He said about 3 or 4 times. So hey, I do real estate and how can I help? Here's my card. And so find out what they do. And it's just very organic for me to walk down the street. I met someone 2 days ago in the coffee shop, not listening, but listening. And they just moved to the area. So how can I help you? Welcome you to this is my city, like covering down, everything is my city. How can I be of assistance, get you all warmed in? And just from that, I get lots of referrals. I get lots of vantage points. Hey, do you know this person? No, but I'd like to, and so it's very organic for me to go out and talk. And as I was just explaining to my lovely ladies here, I twirl all around the city. It's all fun. It's all dynamic. We're all friends and family, so twirl. I mean, that's what I say. Twirl, speak to people, be engaged, really be interested in what it is they do as it relates to real estate, as it relates to your city or to your whatever your city is. If it's not Detroit, your state, what are they doing relative to real estate? Because it can all be a help and all be a resource.
Great. Excellent. I think in thinking about how to develop relationships, some of the consideration has to be, at least from my perspective, what is it that you are hoping to groom or develop with respect to the relationship? Sometimes when you meet people, you can tell immediately this person will be a great referral source. We have some synergy in this area. This person has access to capital. This person has access to political clout. This person has access to real estate. So you start thinking when you're having discussions with them about ways that you can have some synergy in your business. And then there are some people, when you meet them, you can tell immediately, you just hit it off. You can tell that you're going to be really good friends. So when you're thinking about the goal of the contact, that's going to inform what the contact looks like and what your development of that relationship looks like. So if it's a potential referral source, I usually have those folks in a rotation. We have specific business development opportunities at my firm so that if I know I have a client or a referral source who loves to go to sporting events, we can make arrangements for that. Or I have a client who is a travel connoisseur. Whenever I talk about my trips, like we keep in touch with one another. Let's go have coffee and discuss the last trip that you took, or we'll talk about the last trip that I took. So there are certain things around which we have common interests and can coalesce. And then you can put those folks in a tickler file. And if you haven't seen them within a certain amount of time, then you just reach out to them. And also, LinkedIn is invaluable for keeping folks at top of mind for you and for keeping you at top of mind for them. So just kind of ride the wave and use all of those tools that are available to you and thinking about achieving the goal.
Wonderful.
Can I add to that?
Yeah.
Yeah, so what I do in those spaces is I will have, thank goodness, someone gifted me, some lovely person gifted me a virtual assistant. And so now all of those wonderful people I collect information on, they can be put into categories now. Yay, yay, yay. These people do this, these people do that. I am not the most organized. I'm a very open book. I'm not the most organized individual. However, this brings so much peace having people organized by what they do. And I am old school in the respect that I love to handwritten notes. So I don't get to do it a whole lot. It's very difficult. We need our hands for everything. But when I can, on a thankful Thursday, I might write 5, not a large number. I'm ashamed to say, but it's 5, maybe once a quarter. I'm trying to be gracious with myself.
Yeah.
It's so real, but it means so much. So making those pointed connects, when people get a handwritten note, it's like, oh my,
That's right.
and it's not long. It's like one sentence. That's all I got time for. It was so nice to meet you, or thanks for linking me with blah, blah, blah. But that's one of the ways you kind of just really nurture those relationships.
Yeah.
Or it's shooting a quick text message, because people like to know that just on a hump day Wednesday, while they're out getting it, you're thinking of them. Hey, I loved our conversation. I love we connected, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
So, it's just those random things. And then when you think of someone or you meet someone who says, hey, I need a structural engineer, you'd be like, hey, you know what? I remember that person. Then they remember you because you connected and then you followed up. So.
Excellent. I want to dig in for just a couple of minutes before we get into sort of the scenarios. Talk to me a little bit about some gender bias that you may have experienced when you've gone into negotiations, how you've overcome that, and what you wish you would have sort of known before that. So is there anything that you can tell people to save them a little bit of that challenge?
I would say a few things. One thing I wish I had known, or a few things I wish I had known. One thing is to be gentle with yourself. Don't have an expectation that you're going to know something just because you exist. You don't know it unless you've actually had the experience. And even if you have learned a concept in a textbook, unless you are in a scenario where you have to apply it in real life, you still are going to be feeling your way. So be gentle with yourself. The second thing I would say is that the guys are scared too. They just are socialized to cover it differently than women are. So the guys are freaked out too. And I think like looking at them not as folks to be intimidated by, but as colleagues, friends, and people who are interested in your success. That's a little bit of an assumption that I make, is that you're interested in my success the same way that I'm interested in yours. And that colors the way you talk with people and the way you interact with them. I don't assume that you mean me harm. I certainly don't mean you any. Although if you came to the negotiation table, I have some smoke for you if you came for that. But then when we're done, we're done. And even with respect to that, when you prove yourself to be formidable, people respect you. Like at least for lawyers, we can literally like fight like cats and dogs at a negotiation table. But when we're done, let's go have a drink. Let's get on this deal together. And when you see each other's names again, you go, I want that person on my deal because that person is reasonable, that person is tough, that person is smart. So give yourself some grace. The guys are freaked out too. And then just in terms of negotiating gender bias, making the assumption that people want you to be successful the same way that you want them to be successful. And again, I cannot overstate how important it is to be prepared and to be knowledgeable about the subject matter. Don't let people outwork you, because then your confidence level really does. I said it earlier, your confidence level goes through the roof. When you come in the room and you know what's in your documents, you know what's in your deal, you know the folks at the table, what their tendencies are, your confidence level goes through the roof.
Yes, I agree. Again, preparedness, knowing your craft, knowing what it is that you're putting out there is so imperative. With anyone, again, working in the unfortunate space of a gender bias is something that I hope a lot of us do not experience, although I have directly, and I think that unfortunately, I think most will, especially in commercial real estate and development. It's just what it is. But thank goodness we have all of these tools and all of these spaces where we can lean on each other and get that information. I have experienced it directly in a negotiation for a commercial building, and I was the only woman in the room. And it was very on the nose. My experience was it was literally two men, like I'm in the room at the negotiation table with my clients, two men like literally leaning on my chair, like on either side, like direct, what they thought direct intimidation. And so you guys okay? Everybody okay? All right, let's do this, So being prepared and just knowing why you're there. And then at the end of the meeting, just, standing up, shaking hands, being a professional. And, it's, it was nice mothering you all. You have to understand that you are a mother. We are, but being a stalwart professional and being formidable as you stated, because at the end of the day, now when they see me, it's, oh, hey, how are you doing, Nicole? Yeah, I'm doing great. I'm doing great. Yeah. So just stand your ground. Be amazing, because let's understand, like, women are warriors too. We can get in there and maintain our femininity. Every meeting with them, I love a mean pantsuit. I do. But every meeting with them, it was a dress in heels, because I am here in this space bringing feminine energy, but it's feminine warrior energy. So let's do this and let's win. So be who you are and don't apologize for it, but don't take any crap.
I love that. Any final thoughts before we start going through some sort of mock scenarios?
I would say, sometimes you can win or lose the battle in your own head first. So don't like psych yourself up so much that you walk into the room and you've intimidated yourself.
Yeah.
If you are prepared for the room, if you know your deal, know your people, and know what your intended goals are, then you are much more likely to feel focused and to feel settled. So if you feel focused and you feel settled when you walk into the room, it's going to be more difficult for you to get rattled. So don't rattle yourself either. Go in and do it.
Yeah, for sure. Be a winner. I say this, you're just like the sun. All you do is rise and shine. And no matter what is going to happen, be prepared to lose, but be prepared to stay in the fight until the very end and know that you drew blood. I have to get a little gritty with you. Know that even if you lose, somebody's bleeding. You should see the other guy, but be relentless. Know your end game, what you came for, and be determined not to leave without it. Be relentless in the fight, but know that even if you lose, it is okay, because you learned something and they learned something about you too. So yes.
I love it. Okay, so I haven't been rude. I'm checking the chat. I'm not on Facebook. And so it looks like we've got actually quite a few scenarios around negotiating for career advancement and salary. And so let's talk a little bit about negotiating for yourself. So negotiating for a salary raise or negotiating when knowing that like there's probably an opportunity for a big jump if you leave your firm. How do you negotiate for yourself for them to retain you? How do you negotiate for them to pay you what you would be getting paid if you made a jump to a different firm? How do you negotiate for, some of the different um, benefits and things like that. So let's talk about this. Let's talk about salary, women, and advocating for yourself and your career advancement.
Yeah.
Some of the best advice I received from one of my mentors was every year, whatever the beginning of your evaluation period is, keep a brag file during the year. So an event like this would be a brag file. Just drop the flyer in there. You get invited to moderate a panel discussion. You attend a conference overseas. Those sorts of things. Drop something in your brag file so that when it's time for you to go in and negotiate for something, again, you're going to evidence. You're not making an argument based purely on emotion. I've been here for 5 years. That's not a reason to give you a raise if you can't show where you've moved a needle. So if you have a brag file, and women traditionally are socialized not to brag about ourselves, even though we work really, really hard. And when we are rewarded for that, or when we get asked to participate in something that showcases how hard we've worked, you've earned it. So we should be keeping record of all of those things. When you get ready to go in and negotiate, in preparation for that, take out your brag file. And sometimes you may need to look at it yourself to remind yourself of how much of a beast you really are. So this thing about the imposter syndrome, if you do your work and you go back and remind yourself, I earned this, and this, I earned my seat at the table, the imposter syndrome has to dissipate because you can point to the things that you've done where you've demonstrated your mastery over a particular subject. So keep a brag file. And then when you start thinking about salaries, do your research, call recruiters that you know and trust. Look at what the industry standards are for salaries for someone in your position. And then do your research to figure out, how can I show that I've moved the needle at my company in ways that are very measurable? Pull your stats so that you can show what you've done that warrants the raise that you're requesting, and how your work, your visibility, you're putting the company in a position where now it has a more favorable position in the marketplace, how that's directly impacted the bottom line. And you should, of course, receive some benefit from that.
That's amazing.
Right. I would say also in your brag file, you should possibly garner letters of recommendation from those you worked with who saw you bring the smoke,
Yeah.
right? So, and then I would further say my mantra in life is be your own icon. So let's let's just kick in the door, and let them know. Like, don't shirk. We should not have imposter syndrome because we are amazing. Women are dynamic. We are fabulous. We are devastating. So I think it is something where we need to maybe work up to our own iconic levels and don't push yourself down at all. I mean, people will try to do that for you so you can leave that job to take that off your to-do list, right?
Yeah.
And then the other thing would be, I'd say, quantify what it is, like you mentioned, quantify what it is that you brought to that organization. So selling yourself is number one to career projection. So let's go, let's get it.
That's right.
And if you don't know how, talk to your best girlfriend. And if your best girlfriend can't talk you up, then get a new best girlfriend. Okay. Yeah, but seriously.
Call me. Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, call me.
I'll any one of them.
Wednesday
Yeah.
before 9 a.m. if my phone rings, I'd be like, hey, hey, you are glitter, you are set. I know somebody's calling me because they need me to talk them up, and I got it. I got it. Every time.
Okay, so here is a real life scenario. A building owner rep is about to bring a $5 million IRA EPA funding. They want to negotiate for getting a percentage of a finder's fee or a bonus. They're a staff member and not a consultant, and the pushback that they've gotten in the past is that other staff members are not getting bonuses or raises. So talk to me about negotiating for something where you're bringing high value, high worth sort of individuals into a transaction, and there's not been an established reward system for that.
It's interesting.
What I would say, if I may, what I would say is if it hasn't happened in that organization, find an organization where that has been the case and bring that and find three. I like the rule of three. When I have to present something or make an executive decision, give me three examples, fight for that because you are bringing a value and the value that you bring is going to supersede that little percentage that you're looking for. And yes, you should be compensated. I don't believe that men in particular really, shirk from that sort of thing or expect not to win when they present something like that. That is a high value deal. Yes, you should get that. You have some skin in the game. You're bringing someone. And if you allow me to get this deal and get this bonus, which I deserve, then I'll do it again and again. So, I mean, fight for that. I think that is something we all need you to win on. And if you want me to jump on the call, call me. I think you should definitely.
So find structures and
structures.
Yeah, examples
precedents.
of how that
Yeah.
works in other organizations.
Add to that also, position yourself so that you can actually be compensated. So some of the argument that I've seen is that legally you can't share part of a commission with someone who's not licensed in the state of Michigan. So if you're not an agent, you're not a broker, you may not be able to show a fee. You certainly can't show it on a closing schedule. So if you need to obtain some licensure, go and do that so that your argument is, I meet these criteria. There's no reason why I shouldn't be getting this finder's fee. But the other piece of it too is remember that value comes in many ways. If I bring a deal to you and I cannot be compensated with money, there may be other forms of compensation. Can you sponsor an event? Can you come to an event and not charge me an honorarium to be a speaker? What are the other ways that I can exchange value for something that I find valuable? So be flexible too. And then also remember, one deal may not carry the day. If you bring a deal to someone, you refer it, you see it through to the end. The compensation that you earn over time because you become a trusted resource as you're earning your real estate agent's license, that pays dividends. But if you are so short-sighted that you only see one deal, then you may lose the bigger picture, which is that over time, you're building up a referral source. You're putting yourself in a situation where you can monetize your contribution because if licensure is required, you're getting it.
Wonderful. Okay. We've got, does anybody, by the way, if there's anybody in any of your boardrooms or meeting spaces, if you have something that you want to chime in or you would like to add to this conversation, you have things that we're not covering, we want this to be interactive. So please feel free to chime in. Carissa, you'll have to kind of find a spot to jump in and let us know that there's some people wanting to get in because I can't see that far. Okay. So this is a question about kind of negotiating time. So the question specifically is what happens when there's negotiating that's kind of happening on the spot, right? And so you're in a conversation with someone and then realize that like conclusions are being come to and you need to negotiate for a little bit more time to think about these things, to check back, probably find some resources and standards and see if this is even normal. And then also, I mean, I think we can even broaden that a little bit to just negotiating for your time in general. Like, I think whenever we're negotiating a new contract, there's always timelines that are probably unrealistic on both ends. So how are you negotiating for something that works for everyone? How are you negotiating your time within your job? You know, so how do you advocate for more time, negotiating for your time?
A few things. The first thing is if you are feeling like someone is pushing you to make a decision or to draw a conclusion and you don't have enough information or you haven't been given enough time, don't be apologetic about slowing things down. So, as a lawyer, people, if I'm at an event, a cocktail hour reception, sometimes people want me to answer a question. And I know from experience now that people don't give you all of the information. Sometimes people wittingly and unwittingly paint themselves in the best light, but you know that there's something missing. I don't want to have a legal conversation at a cocktail hour or at a reception. And so if I feel like I'm being asked to draw a conclusion, my response is usually something to the effect of, I'm really interested in providing the best advice and best service to you that I can, but we're not in an ideal situation to do that. So let me give you my business card. Please do reach out to me and let's schedule some time so that we can sit down and talk to one another and you can be my focus and I can be yours. I'm so thrilled to have met you and I look forward to hearing from you. So you have to control your own time because otherwise people will always be pulling on you for information. And if they haven't shared everything that you need to have to make a decision, they still are going to hold you accountable as if they took your advice and you gave it to them when it was specific for them. So make sure that you're controlling the narrative. If you come into a room and people are asking you to make or draw conclusions and you feel like you haven't been given enough time, I would say that the response is very similar. You know what? We've covered a lot of ground today. Let's break for now. Let's take this information back. I would love the opportunity to really read it, digest it, and then have some follow-up questions. Can we set up an appointment for sometime next week?
I love the notion of kind of pushing it back on them in terms of like, you're not going to get the best from me in this environment, right? And so it's whether it's a contract and negotiating for a little bit more time, it's or you know, negotiating that like I can't do this with you right now. It's I want to give you all of my focus and I want to give you the best possible end product. And I can't do this with what's been sort of currently presented to me. I think that's great. Pushing it back on them that like this is your benefit.
Absolutely.
I'm not doing this for me. I mean, I can give you answers off the fly.
Yeah.
I'm doing this for you because
That's
it's
right.
what's in your best benefit.
That's
I love
right.
that.
Yeah.
I think that's perfect. And I mean, I'm straight up and down with people. This requires research. I need to familiarize myself further with the deal or these points that you're asking. Things change rapidly in the industry. Let me make sure that I'm giving you the most current information. Yeah, I mean, just be real with people. You know, you caught me off guard. Um, I've had a few cocktails. I mean, I've had a few cocktails. I can't be sure I'm giving you the best. So, you know, this is not ideal, 100%, 100%. And I think also for me, you know, in the entrepreneurial space, you know, I'm never off of work space. I'm always, my twin's like, I can't ever, she's texting, I can't ever get you. Yeah, my phone is on do not disturb because I have to command my time, my space, my mental space, because I'm always working. Or what we do is it's a mental agility game. Like you're always connecting dots and figuring this deal for that little point here. So I work in power hours, right? So it's a lifestyle, real estate, as you all know. It's a lifestyle, it's not a job, right? It's not off at 5, it's not off on the weekends, right? So I'm running around. So for 1 hour, maybe my power could be 2 hours. My phone is on airplane mode, do not disturb. I'm listening to house music or hip hop or jazz, and I'm just outputting only, right? You have to command your space, command your time, take the time because no one's going to give it to you. Same thing with clients, you can't always be available because it's not good on any level for you, for your family, for anything. So, commanding that space and standing in that power that, I'm not available at this time, or I'm working, but I'm not available to answer random one-off questions or to intake. I'm only outputting for this next hour. I'm only answering emails to go out when I come off of airplane mode because I'm not receiving information at this time. You have to, calm the nervous system, put on some Coltrane or something like that. Like the nervous system is shocked all day long. It's like, hey, oh, whoa, hold on. Because you can't be highly effective. You can't give your best if it's always being inundated with people's requests and you're not being your best professional self.
Yeah.
So command the space and say, hold on 1 second, I'll get back to you today, or I'll get back to you. I need 2 days to research this. So by the end of the week, right? So
Yeah,
command your space.
I love that. I love
And
that.
everybody will be fine. No one is going to fall off the planet if you take an hour. Serious.
Yeah, I love that. I'm being told that Lansing might have their hand up. Is that still true?
This is stressful. Here we go. Yes, it is. Hi, thank you so much for sharing your expertise. I'm Jeannie Johnny from Lansing, Michigan. I just wanted to add a couple of things when it's like for salary negotiations. One of the things that I do is within the first week, I request the performance evaluation to look at the points at what the company or organization values the most. So when you come to a situation, whether it's in an organization or a business, that says, well, we don't really give raises because we didn't give so-and-so a raise, where our jobs are completely different. And this is what the organization or the company values, and I have exceeded those expectations. So let's talk about equity now, right? So, you understand what that company values and you excel in those things. I think one of the things that, it's okay if you don't come out of negotiations with what you want. But I think if you do this a couple of times and the company is adamant and you don't feel that you're valued, I think one of the things that women don't do enough is we get too comfortable in the positions that we're in. Explore other opportunities. Always explore to better yourself. So, always making those networks and connecting and applying to different positions and see what's out there. That gives you leverage. Thanks.
Thank you.
Totally agree.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
Yeah, that's good.
Thank you. Okay. So then I've got one that is, let's call it negotiating after the fact. So we've got a scenario where there's a contractor who is now backpedaling, and this person is trying to avoid legal action. And so how do you go about sort of negotiating what we'll call maybe the non-negotiables, right? Like we have a contract in place, or maybe we had a verbal contract, or this is what we agreed upon. And so this is a non-negotiable. This should be sort of set in stone. So how do you go about negotiating when there are things that you shouldn't have to negotiate for, or both parties believe are something that they don't want to make movement on? And in this specific scenario, they really want to try and avoid taking legal action. So what likely might have to compromise?
I would first, again, straight up and down. I'm looking to avoid taking you to court.
Yes.
So let's baseline, look at what my issue is and why you have an issue with what we already discussed. And start there, because again, before any man, we're first human. So it could be just literally, we don't know I don't know where they're coming from, right? So I
Right.
don't know if they're just trying to be shady or if there is misunderstanding. So let's gain that understanding baseline, but just state, hey, I'm trying not to take you to court. I think that we're both capable humans who are professional. We can solve this right here, hopefully. And so if you have that conversation, bring the contracts out. Where did we get off track? Right? Let's just bring it on back, because I believe everybody wants to be good for the most part. As you stated, Liz, I believe everybody wants to be good and they want to have a desire, a favorable outcome. You don't want to stain on your business, because then I'm gonna have to go to the Better Business Bureau. I'm gonna have to blow you up, but let's try to work it out. And then if they're not gonna be amenable to a very reasonable thing or place to be, then we have to go from there. But I would say start there
Yeah.
if you haven't.
Particularly love the way that you put that, because it didn't feel threatening.
Yeah.
Right? It was like, hey, I'm coming here like because I truly believe that we can come to an agreement and a conclusion here. And I don't want to have to go down the road of, taking legal action, not like listen, don't make me call Liz Rogers.
Right here.
Because you don't want to have to enter negotiations with her.
Do you see her? I would say as long as we still have communication, there is still opportunity
Right,
to solve the problem amicably.
right.
I would say too, to aid in your discussions, there are two questions that I think will help get to the heart of the matter. One question is, tell me what you are concerned about here, because that will help peel back the layers and let's get to the bottom line. If a contractor is concerned that he underbid the project or she underbid the project and now I'm running out of money and I have another job that's going to pay more and I'm in the hole on your job, so I really need to go back and negotiate the price. Once you know what has happened, then you can figure out whether there is a solution that you can come to that will address what that person is concerned about and address what you're concerned about, which is getting your contract done upon the deal terms that you agreed. So the question of what are you really concerned about here is going to help you peel back the layers and address the issue. The second question that you can ask is, okay, we know where we both are. Tell me what areas can we agree on? Because to the extent that you can coalesce around something, to the extent that you can nail one thing down, sometimes the ability to do that goes a long way to just sort of changing the energy in the room. And sometimes the ability to be able to agree on one thing can spread, because once you can nail down that one thing, then you can gain just a little bit more ground at a time until hopefully you have some negotiated deal that you can live with. To that end, please make sure that you always are papering your deals. I know with contractors, that's harder. Sometimes with friends, we just say, oh, yeah. You just do this, I'll just do that. No big deal until it is a big deal. So even for the things that seem insignificant, make sure you paper your deals. Even if it's a one-page agreement, you're gonna, with the material terms, you're gonna do this for this amount of time, you're gonna spend this much money, and we'll know when we're done. I mean, you want to have something that you can point to go, no, let's take a look at what we agreed to.
Agreed. I love that. I mean, of course, Liz Rogers is write it down. It's not real. If it's not written down. I love that attorney.
Please
Partner attorney Liz Rogers.
Write it down.
I love it. So I have a question. So with that negotiation, so off the cuff with contractors, of course, those off the cuff negotiations, if it's written down in a text message, even, I mean, I know it's not signed in a one pager, but that's something, right? Is that Is that
It's
true?
something that at least can aid in your
It can
negotiations
add.
because then you're going back and you're looking at the text and you're saying, and sometimes you can take a humble role to say, you know what, let's go back to our text. Now, maybe I misunderstood. Tell me what this text message says.
I like it.
You should know that before you ask the question. That's part of your research. But if you're taking a more humble approach to say, maybe I misunderstood, let's take a look at the text messages, which is similar to what you're saying with the contracts. Let's pull them out.
Yeah.
Let's look and see what we agree to.
Mhm.
Now, I've seen contractors, I've been in scenarios where once a contractor sees that he actually agreed to something, he doesn't like what he agreed to now after the fact, he'll say, well, I mean, we don't have to pay attention to the contract. Then
Don't make me.
we have a different scenario, but definitely paper your deals.
Mhm,
For
mhm.
text messages are not the same, but that is better than nothing because at least you can go back to see what you actually agree to.
Okay, that's great. I want to end on one sort of final kind of point, and this isn't really a scenario as much as I'd like you to just kind of give some advice. Talk to me a little bit about maintaining really positive relationships with people that you either regularly or even as a one-off have to enter into some kind of tough negotiations.
Mhm. Yeah, well, I like to congratulate the people that I'm in negotiations with. Congratulations. It's like, basketball,
Yeah.
like, hey, good game,
Yeah.
want to, what, like she mentioned, I want to get you on a deal. Or if something comes up and it's a similar scenario, I might circle back and say, hey, you know what, John, I remember when we negotiated on the blah, blah, what do you think about this? Just giving a nod to their professionalism and that you respect them. Yeah, exactly. And they like it. And then, and by the way, do you have anyone for this? I have this property, so you start by acknowledging and respecting that they came to the game to win. And if they won over you, congratulate them. And if you won, haha, hey, no, I didn't mean haha.
The negotiation is everybody feels hurt a little when they.
Everybody's hurt.
Exactly
I
right.
respect the fact that you're a professional.
right.
Yeah. And then you invite them to your client appreciate, or something. You invite them to something, maybe
Yeah.
not your clients, but invite them somewhere, to twirl,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
One, in addition to that, you also may want to shake that person's hand and sincerely thank them for helping to bring some conclusion to the deal
Mhm.
and let them know that you appreciate and value their time and expertise.
Mhm.
That goes a long way. Another thing is on a multi-billion-dollar deal that I'm on, we have events outside of the workspace because our time together is very focused. It can be very intense. But when we go have a drink together
Mhm.
after a meeting, go participate in some event together, it gets you outside of the office with the folks that you've been fighting with. And you get an opportunity to see that people can be so much fun sometimes. And then you genuinely build friendships and respect and trust among one another. And you take those good feelings back into the office. So even if it is a stretch for you, sometimes we may not necessarily be inclined to want to hang out with people who are not our favorite personality types, but push yourself. Go have a cocktail or a mocktail and just hang out a little bit and get to know people and give them an opportunity to get to know you. That can go a long way to kind of smooth over some of those scenarios in which you have to negotiate later.
I agree. And it causes expansion, right?
Absolutely.
In us,
Yeah.
and then that expounds out to our clients, right? They get the breadth of our new information. Oh, you know what? Wow, he really got me with that, with that point there. I think I'll use that later. And it works for everyone.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
Excellent.
this has been so great. Thank you for pouring into us today. I want to encourage all of you women to continue to pour into one another for the next half hour or so. Continue the conversation, really build on this. I will ask you to include one point in that conversation, and that is to really think about and discuss some future topics that you would love to have covered for this, and send those to us for feedback, because I am confident after this that all of you will be coming back and participating in future. Spread the word. I would love for this to become sort of a nationwide thing. I think it would be amazing. And also to join us in December. So the next one of these is in December. I'm blanking on the date, but we will get that out to you. And we have already identified that the topic for that one is going to be around consensus building. And we've got some really talented community engagement specialists. And so talking